and welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
And I'm irritated, but not with the Rams. I'm irritated with the Ramily, and I'm going to explain a few things why. First of all, piss poor performance against Philadelphia. The Rams played soft as usual, played completely disinterested, and I was talking to LT during the game, and when the Rams were down 30-13, I told him, at this point, I don't care if the Rams come back, but I do care that the Rams make an effort. I want to see this team finish this game strong. I had no anticipation of them having a comeback win. That's not their MO. But, hold on a minute. Too loud, you gotta go. Not having the dog in here distracting me too. All right. Okay. I didn't anticipate the Rams coming back. That's not been their MO. In their entire franchise's history, the Rams have had a track record of not coming from behind. The Saints, I think, might have been their largest comeback in franchise history, and it doesn't even count because they didn't win. I don't ever recall in my lifetime the Rams being down 21 and coming back, and they dang near did it in this game. While that's irritating, and yes, the Rams should have won, and there is a level of disappointment, I read some pretty crazy stuff. We need to blow this thing up. Jared Goff isn't the answer. We got to find another quarterback. Guys, we're 11-3. For the love of Pete, we have two very winnable games coming up, and you want to blow the thing up. Look, no disrespect to the Ramily, but if that's going to be your analysis of this football team, thank God you're a fan, and please stay out of management. Because not only is that completely preposterous, but it shows a level of cluelessness that I think you really need to pump the brakes and evaluate what you actually know about the game of football. Now, I rightfully so got some criticism of somebody saying, no, Anthony, don't be satisfied with losing in the first round this year. This is not what we were built for. This is, you talk about the team being soft. Well, that's a soft mentality. Look, fair point. Fair point. But I'm looking at this thing not through rose-colored glasses, but through a perspective that I think needs a little bit of reality check here. We have a quarterback that's in year 2 of a new system. He's only a third-year quarterback, and this is only his second full season as a starter. We've got a running back that's got a lot of mileage on the tread in the last 5 seasons, or 4 or 5 seasons that he's been a running back. Okay? We got a banged-up wide receiving core, and we don't have a lot of depth. So I'm looking at our football team, and I'm saying, yeah, with an inexperienced coach as head coach, with, the experiment not looking like it's working on defense, with the Sue and the Peter situation, I think it's fair that we take a step back and go, what's good and what's not good? The Rams, if they lose in the first round of the playoffs, got farther this year than they did a year ago. It's a step in the right direction. Is it disappointing? Yes. Is it going to break my heart? No. Am I going to be satisfied with the season overall? Yeah, we showed some really good improvement, especially if we end up with a better record than we did a year ago. Do I think it's a lost opportunity? Of course I do. But to put this on Jared Goff played like crap. He doesn't make that stupid interception at the end of the third quarter. We actually are in position to win the game 26-23 at the end of the game rather than having to score a touchdown. And he looked like garbage. I'm not excusing any of that. But he's a second-year quarterback, essentially. He's learning a new system. He's gotten his bell rung a little bit. He's playing with happy feet. So the coaches need to sit him down and go, stop moving your feet, set yourself in the pocket, trust the play's going to break, and throw it. Make sure you check your checkdowns. You've got your tight ends and your running backs open for a reason. Look for them. If it's not open downfield, look to them. Look, this loss sucked. There's no way around it. The defense played absolutely like garbage. The offense was a no-show for most of the game. But you've got 2 games where you can get this thing clicking again, heading into another bye week, unfortunately, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but I actually think having the bye may hurt the Rams here, especially if they get hot again, while they're able to rest their starters. McVay's got to prove coming out of a bye that he can get the job done effectively. Coming out of the bye last year, which is essentially what the 49er game was, we got our teeth kicked in the wild card. Coming out of the bye this week, we've stumbled out of the gate, make no mistake about it. Now we're about to have another bye, and yes, we're going to have another bye because we're going to win these next 2 games. It's not even close in my opinion. We got to show that we can recover from these moments. So, to the Ramily, calm your jets. It's a bad loss followed by a loss against a team that they outplayed us. And we didn't take Philly seriously. And that was evident from the beginning because they played totally disinterested. Now, my final point. I wrote a letter to the Rams this week. I don't know if they're going to pass it to McVay. But what the letter entailed was basically reminding the Rams of a few things. 1, we're behind them. 2, where their talent is and why they're talented. I told Jared Goff why he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. I told the offensive line that we can't do it without him. I told Peters how great he can be and has been in the past. It wasn't a rip letter. It was the exact opposite. Because these guys look to me, Eric, and I want your opinion on this. They looked to me on Sunday, especially coming out of the locker room going into the second half, they looked like they were scared, like they weren't sure of themselves. They looked like they lost a lot of confidence. And then they played like it in the third quarter. Your take.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those lull periods where right now you're not peaking. Obviously, you're in a valley. But what really gets to me is that in 2 straight games, the Rams have no sacks. That is concerning a little bit, especially with how hot Aaron Donald was. No sacks the first 4 games, 16 and a half sacks up until the last 2 games. And then nothing from the Rams defensively, really, except for 4 turnovers, 3 by Trubisky and 1 by Foles that was picked off by Talib by the end zone.
Great pick.
The Donald guys are getting much pressure on the quarterback lately. I'm assuming it's going to change and turn around against Arizona because their line is atrocious. Their quarterback is not that good. And you should whitewash the crap out of the Cardinals next weekend. And maybe that's what they need, but they have to find a way to just turn it back on with 2 games left in the regular season because you say it's not possible for them to lose 1 more game, but I mean maybe not having that bye week would be a good thing for them. I don't know. But I think especially with Gurley, I think he might have to just rest him for a week. I mean, he looked okay. He's got inflammation in the knee, and they went out and signed C.J. Anderson for depth there. So it is semi or a little concerning. I would say less than 50% concerning. But if you're going out and signing a running back, and I know you lost Malcolm Brown for the year, but I would really think about considering not playing him much or at all in the game against Arizona. And then if he responds well, then definitely play him against San Francisco, just so, he's got that work. But you don't want to give guys time off at this time just because of how you performed in the last couple of games. But I think what really hurt the Rams, and I wholeheartedly believe that they were going to tie up the game, but the special team was dropped by a fumble by Natson, I think hurt him more. Mm-hmm. And I know Elliott missed a field goal, and that's great, but time got ticked off the clock. Everett couldn't get out of bounds on one play where I was like, dude, just go to the sideline. Gurley couldn't get out of bounds, and then it's like they were rushed. And I'll tell you what, when Goff threw the last pass into the end zone, Robert Woods was basically standing at the 5-6 yard line, and all they had to do was run a play with a possible lateral, and could have gotten in, I thought. because Woods is fast enough. He could have moved around a little bit, but Goff went for the end zone right away, and I was just like, interesting. So I know that they felt probably a little rushed, but they just need to take a deep breath. They're still in control. The loss hurts their one seed chances, but you still have to go through. New Orleans still has to win a game in New Orleans before you two face each other again, if it comes down to that. So, New Orleans looks beatable. The Rams look beatable. Let's just say everybody who's in a playoff spot right now looks beatable.
Yeah.
Maybe except for the Chargers right now. I mean,
I don't even.
They look really good, but they are beatable too. I mean,
yes, they are.
Everybody at this time is not playing their best football. Let me just say that.
Which is weird. I've never the parallels to this season in 1986, with one exception. In 1986, the Giants were unmistakably the best team in football. Unmistakably. And the Redskins were unmistakably the second best team in football. But everybody else was like, even the Redskins at the end of the year, though, they were like trying to give the season away. The Redskins lost to the Giants. Then they lost to the Broncos. Then they dang near lost to Philly at the end of the year, and they almost went 11-5, but they ended up finishing in season 12-4. The Rams were 10-4. All they needed to do was win one game against a Miami football team that was under 500 and a 49er football team that looked very beatable in 86, and they lost both those games in overtime at home to Miami, and then they lost by 11 to the 49ers on Friday night in Week 16, and ended up going to the playoffs and having to go to Washington, which is a house of horrors for the Rams, and they lost that game 19-7. But the parallels to this season, 86, really do surprise me, because everybody at the end of that season, they kind of just didn't care anymore. Like, they just wanted to hurry up and get to the playoffs, and they were all playing bad. The only exception there is the Giants. I'm seeing it too now. Look, New Orleans, I'm glad you mentioned New Orleans because we're going to hit them third. But the thing for the Rams for me is a lot of this stuff is correctable. It's emotion. The Rams need to play with emotion. They need to play angry. They need to play smart. And they need to play like they care. Now, once the postseason comes, that's a switch you can turn on. No question. But you got to get there first. And how you get there matters. Because you can turn it on, but if you've got to go to Dallas or Chicago, not they'll be a wild card team. They're going to be. If you're going to be hosting, Philly or Seattle, Philly or Minnesota, you better get this thing figured out quick. Because then you got to go on the road to either Chicago and New Orleans, or you're home. You play either Dallas or Chicago, depending on what the Bears do. And then you're going to have to play New Orleans on the road, which, again, in a dome in New Orleans, I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about it. It's going to be a great game. I'm walking into that. If that is the conference championship game, I'm looking at it going, we beat ourselves in New Orleans. They didn't beat us. Let's see how McVay does when he gets two shots at the same team. I know in his rookie year when he lost to Seattle, he beat Seattle the next time, and he beat the crap out of them in Seattle the next time he played them. But he beat the 49ers, but the next time he saw him, he got his teeth kicked in. So, granted, he had a depleted team because he thought he was going to rest his starters. Here's a team that didn't rest their starters against their bitter rival. The Green Bay Packers, I believe, are now officially eliminated for the playoffs, courtesy of the Chicago Bears.
Eliminated.
So I would argue if there is one team playing their best football right now, it is the Chicago Bears. Would you agree?
Hard to say. I mean, I say that unconvincingly because the Bears' offense can be better. I've seen the Bears' offense better this year. They can be better. They played Sunday like they wanted the game, don't get me wrong. And they took the game. They played almost error-free football. And when you have a semi-cocky head coach, and I say that because at midfield he ran a fake punt on 4th and 2 and lost a yard when your defense is playing great, holding Aaron Rodgers to one of his worst passer ratings of his career, and no touchdowns, you have to pin him deep. Make him drive the length of the field, not a freaking fake punt where he only has to go 50 yards, and they scored a touchdown on it.
Yeah.
Another gimmicky play that I didn't like was that Trubisky left the behind center, and Cohen took the handoff, or took the snap, and RPO play, and they ended up fumbling. And it's like, you don't need that. You just don't need it. Like, put the ball in your quarterback's hands and let them beat you.
Yeah.
And or go beat the other team. Enough with this gimmicky crap, like 7 times a game. It's kind of getting old, and you can almost start seeing when it's going to happen too. Like I had the notion that the Bears were going to run a fake. Like I didn't say it out loud. Of course, I'm like the only one in my basement watching the game. But I'm watching the game. I'm like, oh, don't do it. Just don't. Oh, you did it. Oh, you didn't even get anywhere. It was a little frustrating. Of course, the Bears are up 14-6 at that time, and Green Bay scores a touchdown, and it's like, oh, here we go again. But I'll tell you, the Bears stuck with the run game with Cohen and Howard. Trubisky played great, I thought. Didn't miss too many bad passes that I saw. Had a couple passes tipped that actually, if they were completed, could have went for big gains. But it was nice to see Trey Burton get back in the fold with catches and a touchdown. The Bears have to find a way to utilize their second and third options, because Gabriel was very limited in the game as far as seeing any balls thrown his way. Anthony Miller has almost disappeared from the offense. So they're really relying on Cohen, Howard, Burton, and Allen Robinson. But I will say that if you haven't seen the Trubisky rollout to his left, hitting Adam Shaheen down the left sideline for a 23-yard gain, a huge gain on 3rd down, it was really a beautiful throw and catch and run. Because if he doesn't hit that, it's a punt situation, and who knows what happens from there. But Rodgers finally got his interception streak snapped. It's nice to see the defense play. I thought they could have played better against the run. Jonathan Williams seemed to tear him up, but they were behind. So of course, Rodgers got to be like, "Hey, I got to throw the ball." So it was nice to see a Bears quarterback outplay Rodgers finally for the first time in what seemed like 3 years, which was the last time they beat him. So we took the North. We eliminated Green Bay. We can do a lot more 2 weeks from now when we play Minnesota. But it's just nice. Changing of the guard. Packers are getting older. They're going to start dumping a lot of guys. The Bears don't have a couple of first-round picks for the next two seasons, so it'll be interesting to where they find their talent and how good their real scouting is when it comes to not picking in the first round this coming up year. So, there's the championship for the NFC North division champs is back to where it belongs. And it feels nice, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And we can't take San Francisco lightly. We might even be able to knock out Minnesota and play somebody different in the wild card round. But, if we just take care of ourselves, I'm not really going to worry too much about what the Rams, Saints, Vikings, and Cowboys really do, because really it has no effect on us until the playoffs. We can only control what we can control, and that's how we play.
I really think that the Rams, Bears, Eagles, and Saints, that's going to be the teams that kind of rule the roost of their divisions for a while. I think there's going to be a lot of Bears, Eagles, Bears, Saints, Bears, Rams, Rams, Saints, Rams, Eagles, Saints,
I
Eagles.
wouldn't count out the
games.
Cowboys.
I am. Dak Prescott is going to get a contract extension, and that's going to be one of the worst decisions they make. And I'm not sold on Dallas. Amari Cooper's been nice this year. That's not going to be Amari Cooper next year. I have no doubt that Amari Cooper will go right back to being Amari Cooper. And Dallas just doesn't have, I think, the pieces to compete when Philly's healthy. Don't forget how good the Eagles are. Not because they beat the Rams, because they're not good this year. And the Rams lost to a team with a depleted freaking secondary and a backup quarterback who, by the way, rumor is he might be a Cardinal next year. I've been hearing that.
Who?
Foles.
Oh.
But put all that aside, okay? Yes, this year they're crap. But let's not forget when they're healthy how good they really are. So Dallas might be a wild card team. They may win the division every now and then because the NFC East isn't the AFC least, where they're like, you go ahead and take the division for the next 30 years and we'll just, meander around here because fans are going to buy tickets regardless and we don't have to put a product on the field and we don't care about winning because we're owners who are losers and all we care about is the bottom line, and we don't realize that when we win, we actually make more money than when we lose because we know right now that at least we can get this money from the fans who are coming to the games on a consistent basis through the season ticket holders. So New England, you just go ahead and care about winning, and we're just going to care about money. That's the problem with the AFC least. No other division in football does that. None. Everyone's trying to get better, except the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins. They're just kind of waiting until the Patriots fall apart. So, regardless of all that, I want to say one thing. Once again, I'm listening, and I like the Sunday Night Crew. I like the Sunday Night Crew. Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, in my opinion, are the best announced tandem in the game today. They outshine...
You've come around on Collinsworth then.
Huh?
You've come around on Collinsworth then.
A lot. I really have. He's really improved. He's really impressed me. He's learned a lot. And you got to figure, this man worked with John Madden. He's worked with Al Michaels now for a while. He's kind of worked with a lot of people, and he's really kind of gotten it together. And what I like about Collinsworth is he doesn't get stuck on one team all game long. They talked about the Rams for a while, then they moved to Philly, then they went back to the Rams, and they ended on Philly because Philly looked like they were going to win the game. And they did.
Hold on. Let me stop you right there. I watched the game. I listened to the broadcast. They talked more about the Bears game versus the Rams than they did about the Eagles all game.
Well, early on, because they were talking about how the Eagles were exploiting what the Bears showed. I didn't have a problem with the coverage, but they did.
No, I didn't either. But I seriously felt like if you were blind, and listening to the game, listening to Michaels and Collinsworth, you swear you were listening to a Rams-Bears game.
Yeah, well, there's that. At times. But they made a critical error at the end of the game. They said that this was the first time in McVay's career he's lost back-to-back games. No. No, it was not. They lost Week 17 to the 49ers, and then they lost the very next week in the wild card round to the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, they could have easily said in the regular season.
But they didn't.
Right.
I
caught that too.
And it doesn't matter because he's a coach, and they made the playoffs, and you've got to count the playoffs. They count the playoffs to his overall record, so you got to count the playoffs in the season. So I digress. I'm nitpicking. Now, I want to jump here to the Bear game. I know you were talking about them a little bit, and I want to say something. That this is a rivalry, but I really felt like watching this game, you were seeing the passing of the torch. The Packers organization, I think, is going to be down for a while. A lot like they were in the 70s and 80s. The Packers may make the playoffs occasionally here and there, but I don't know that this Packer team is built or that they have the management to make the postseason at a consistent basis.
They're not because of the big contract that Aaron Rodgers signed. And again, it's why Brady does what he has done and not gone after the almighty dollar. Why Breeze has done that too. They could have easily put their teams down instead of getting other players. And I think that's what. But here's the other problem too. The Packers don't go out and sign free agents either. Okay, they could say, "Oh, we're going to look at the market, whatever, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that." Then they end up drafting, they re-sign their own guys, and that's fine. That's how they run their organization. Maybe things will change with the new front office that's come in, but they're going to be hampered. I've heard that Clay Matthews might be a salary cap casualty next year. I've heard that, and I think that would be a big loss on Green Bay's part. I really do.
I do too. Look, all I'm saying is, and it irritates me too, because they're like, oh, well, Jared Goff is going to get paid at some point. They were saying that a lot this year, and it's like, you just, I mean, first of all, could they show that they don't know Jared Goff any more than with that statement? Jared Goff has done nothing to prove to me that he's in it for the money. He comes from a family that's pretty wealthy. He's been around money his whole life. He's not playing this game because he wants to get rich. He already is rich. So I don't think...
I think what they mean is that, you know, after his 50-year option is picked up...
But I don't think he's going to take Aaron Rodgers' money. I think he's going to take Tom Brady type money.
I don't think that Aaron Rodgers like money is going to be offered to Goff.
Oh, I do. When his contract's up, especially after they win the Super Bowl this year, and then they have another strong year next year, and he puts together 3 or 4 good years in a row. Because the bottom line is, Eric, this year he's exceeded his career, but single season totals record in passing touchdowns, in passing yardage, and his QBR is still under, just a shade under 90. I think it's like 89.8 or something crazy. So he's still got a really good QBR. He's still got a really good completion percentage. Yeah, the interceptions are high. I think they're up to 13 now. But he's having a great year. He's had 3 bad games. And we just want to throw the whole season in the toilet? And I would argue he's had 2 bad games. The Lions game, I don't think statistically was a bad game, but I digress. I have him on my fantasy team. He helped me win that game when they played the Lions. But again, I digress on that. I want to get to this game, though. You talked about Breeze. I want to talk about the Saints and Panthers. I'm glad you said what you did about the Saints looking beatable, because this has been a difficult stretch for them. And had they lost this game, I wonder if they'd be talking about the Saints offense like they're talking about the Rams offense. I dare say they wouldn't, because, you know, Drew Brees is Jesus Christ incarnate, and you can't talk badly about Drew Brees. But I do think that that Drew Brees is. Hold on a minute. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Good night, baby. See you in the morning. I understand why they don't talk bad about Drew Brees. I don't want them to talk bad about Drew Brees, but he's looking older in these last few weeks.
Looking pedestrian.
Very pedestrian. And like you said to me on the phone yesterday, or maybe it was today, you cover Michael Thomas, and the Saints look lost offensively. So
yeah, I mean, you cover Thomas, you put a safety over the top, and then, you know, you go after the run, and then, you know, Breeze is looking for a second, third, fourth, fifth option, and who are those guys? Traquan Smith, rookie, a bunch of undrafted guys too. So yeah, I mean, they don't. Those rookies and undrafted free agents, they're not used to getting open on a whim like Michael Thomas is. And Thomas in the first half was frustrated in last night's game. I mean, like, what's up with the games lately? Like 15-6, 12-9, 17-10 between the Steelers and Patriots. I mean, you know, everybody's like offense. But, you know, when you first get your first big, huge offensive explosion on a Monday Night Football game, you know, 54-51, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, where's the offense? What's the matter? You don't like defense? Defense is what wins you games.
Well, I'll tell you what's happened. The NFL told the officials they want to see more holding penalties. And holding penalties.
And oh man, there was like 1,000 of them in the Kansas City LA game on Thursday night. It was ridiculous.
Well, even that game was the game after that is when they said we got to call more holding. And you've seen the scores come way down because of it. And I think it's good because the offenses this year, they were getting away with bloody murder. I mean, I'm watching the Saint Ram game again because I happen to have it on DVR, and I'm like, oh my God. They weren't just holding Aaron Donald. They basically raped him on national television. Like, I'm surprised a felony didn't get attached to any of those Saint players at the end of that game. I'm pretty sure rape is illegal. And it was ridiculous. Like, there one play, they not only grabbed the jersey with one hand, but it was reached across his body, and they literally pulled him away from the running back, and the back went scurrying upfield for a 25-yard gain, and there was no penalty called. Like, I didn't realize how bad it was during the game, until I went back and started watching it, and I'm like, what in the heck? It was bad. So no wonder the NFL's like, yeah, we got to tone this down. Because the offenses weren't getting penalized. The penalty was always, if there was a flag, 95% of the time it was on defense, which is an automatic first down, and it was a pinball machine. And I think a lot of fans became disinterested. I can tell you right now, if I was a fan of a team that was 4-11, or like the Giants, at that point, I'd have turned it off. No reason to watch games anymore. My team doesn't have a chance because any offense that's competent is going to put up 30 on my defense because you're not calling anything on them, and I got one guy on offense. And when you're down 21-0, that dude's out of the game plan. Now you got to throw it to him. So, I mean, I get it. And I think the NFL almost had to. And it has affected the scores. Look, for me, the Saints, going into this stretch, I said we were going to learn a lot about New Orleans. And I think we've learned a lot more about New Orleans than we have about the Rams in the last few weeks. The Bear game, excuse, make whatever you want. The Bears outplayed the Rams, and they really looked like they couldn't handle the cold. Okay? Philadelphia, they look completely disinterested. But New Orleans, the game against Dallas was a primetime game. They were flying high, and they knew Dallas was a good football team. And matter of fact, I heard Saint players saying, other than the Rams, this is going to be our toughest test of the year. And they came out and looked like that. Then, Tampa Bay, you could say they overlooked them. Carolina, I guess you could say they took them lightly. But goodness gracious, the Saints look like they're extremely beatable right now. I'm not sweating going to New Orleans. Be honest with you, I'm a little nervous having to play Chicago, but I do like having that home field advantage in that situation, and that's why we got to win the next two games. But the Saints, I think, the Steelers is going to tell you everything you need to know. I have no doubt the Saints are going to get home field advantage because they're not going to lose Carolina at home. Although that's not an easy task, beating somebody 6 straight games. But it's happened, and it can happen again. I'm not saying it won't. For me, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm actually picking Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers are going to beat them. I think the Steelers need to beat them for their own sake. But the Saints end up 13-3. The Rams end up 13-3. I don't know that you can look at the game between the two and say, well, the Saints beat the Rams. They were a better team. Overall, you could sit there and say Saints have the advantage because they beat the Rams. It's the same thing I said last year, right? When the Rams beat New Orleans in L.A., and everyone was saying the Saints were a better team, and I was laughing at people going, okay, they're a better team, but we beat them. Okay? I'm not saying the Rams are better than New Orleans because the Saints beat us. I'm saying that's a matchup I think the Rams could win, even though that's a team we lost to. So I'm not scared of the Saints. I respect them, and I know that they're capable of beating us, especially in that dome, but I also know we're capable of beating them. But I'm not going to sit here and say the Rams are better. Score was 45-35 Saints. By default, the Saints are better. Let's see what round 2 looks like. I want to jump to Detroit and Buffalo. I thought this game was interesting. A missed extra point came back and haunted them. There's another low-scoring game, 14-13. There was a lot of good old-school football games this week, and this was definitely one of them. I liked what the Bills did. They didn't get down on themselves when they fell behind 6-0, and they kind of kept it coming. Josh Allen looks like he's going to be a dual-threat quarterback, but I worry about that because dual-threat quarterbacks don't have a long shelf life. At some point, Randall Cunningham stopped running. At some point, Michael Vick had to stop running. And then he ended up running from the cops, and that didn't work out. At some point...
That is horrible.
Well, it's true. Did he not go to jail?
Well, yeah, for dogfighting.
Well, it's still he was running from the law. You know.
Eventually, Steve Young had to stop running too.
Eventually, Steve Young had to stop running. John Elway. A lot of people don't realize how much of a scrambler he was. Eventually, he had to stop running. So we'll see what happens with Allen when that happens. But I don't think he could have landed in a better spot. I mean, it's perfect weather for him. He's a big kid. I'm excited to see what happens in Buffalo next year and the years to come. But it was an ugly win against an ugly team, and it was a game that they had to win, and they need to win, and they did win. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, credit to Detroit for coming out, throwing the ball, and getting Kenny Golladay involved very early in the game. Because the last couple of games, he really hasn't been too much involved. But they, he had 108 yards at halftime, and they still kept feeding him the ball, which is great. Because Buffalo's defense really clamped down and said, we're not going to give you much more. And Josh Allen, like you said, scrambled, did it with his legs, and got it done with his arm, and they pulled off a victory somehow. And I was actually surprised it was as close as it was.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to go on a limb and say this. Raven fans, if you're out there, I hope you enjoyed your final win of the season, because you're going to lose to the Chargers next week, and you're going to lose to the Browns in Week 17. Jackson's your future. You're going to lose Flacco. You're going to lose Harbaugh. I don't think it could happen to a better organization. I really hope that you guys turn around and go get Jim Tuilasoa, who used to coach the 49ers. Feel free to go ahead and pick up somebody.
Jim Tomsula?
Jim Tomsula, yeah. Go ahead and pick up, if he doesn't fit your fancy, Green Bay has a really good D coordinator in Mike Pettin. He worked out really well in Cleveland. Go for him. I have another recommendation. If you like the Green Bay thing, McCarthy's available nowadays. I really hope you make a good decision like that, and you draft and you get one of those coaches, because coupled with the quarterback that you're banking your future on, it's going to be a really fun time for us Brown fans as we watch you wither and rot in the cellar where you belong. And I can't wait for it to happen. So congratulations on beating one of the worst football teams. Maybe the Buccaneers head coach is somebody you want to go get. I hear he might be available. Look, the Buccaneers are a dumpster fire with grease thrown on it and oil doused, and with it doused in oil. They are not going anywhere. They're not a threat to beat anyone. As a matter of fact, if you lost to Tampa Bay this year, you probably are embarrassed.
The Saints are very embarrassed at 11-2.
I'm saying they're embarrassed about that loss. I promise you. Just like the Rams are going to look back at this Eagles loss and go, that was humiliating. How did we do that? You don't like losing games to teams that are that bad. And Baltimore beat a team they should have beaten, and they dominated for most of the game. But I'm not sold on the Baltimore model. And I really hope that they make these two key mistakes in leaving Flacco in the dust and letting Harbaugh go, because it'll be fun times for the rest of us Brown fans.
I'm going to throw two more names out at you. And I don't think the Ravens would go the Mike McCarthy way. I don't think they'll go the Josh McDaniels way. But I could really see them going the Vic Fangio, Mark Helfrich way.
Interesting.
And that would suck. Because I really don't want to lose Fangio.
I don't know. I mean, he is a defensive guy, so they might. We'll see.
Right. Right. But, I mean, yeah, I was surprised at how close the game was. But, yeah, the Ravens got the win like they should have anyways. But, I think they'll keep the game against the Chargers close. I think I think they can beat Cleveland in Week 17 as well. We'll see what happens. I mean, it would be hilarious. And what is funny is that the Browns are not the first team out of the AFC North that's eliminated from playoff contention yet.
Yep.
That belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, which is interesting because they won the game, but then they got eliminated.
Right.
Which is just funny to me. The Bengals, they played a great game, but when your quarterback is Driscoll and your future head coach is Hugh Jackson, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a one-dog show for a couple of years until the AFC North figures it out, because I think Pittsburgh's living the twilight of their existence. I think that the Bengals are complete trash and will be at the end of the year if they make the Hugh Jackson move. I think Baltimore is absolutely going into the dumpster. Cleveland is the only team really kind of rising here, and they're doing it.
I don't know what your infatuation is with Baltimore being so bad, but they're going to be held up by Cincinnati.
Well, I'm not.
And you're going to see a changing of guard as early as next year, but if not next year, then in 2 years, because Antonio Brown's a free agent after 2019, and Roethlisberger's contract, I believe, is up after 2019 as well. I mean, he came out at this year. 2 years ago, he's like, I was thinking about retiring. Then before the season this year, he's like, 2 or 3 more years. So being at 36, I don't know how much more he thinks.
I just don't think Baltimore may get 2 wins out of that, but I honestly don't think they're sweeping the Bengals. I think they're going to split Cincinnati, and I think they're going to get swept by Pittsburgh, because as bad as Pittsburgh may be, they're going to be better than Baltimore and Cincinnati. So, we'll wait and see on this. But look, getting to this game, because I don't want to sell the Bengals short. Look, Driscoll won a game. Boyd stepped up and had a big day. He caught a touchdown. Mixon looked great. I mean, the Bengals have pieces on the chessboard. It's just right now they lost their queen. They lost their bishops. They're playing with a rook, a knight, and the rest are pawns. And it's a problem. So, and they may get a bishop back next year in A.J. Green, but I think that train is stopped for the year. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. For the Raiders, this actually isn't a bad loss. They kind of put themselves back into a top 5 draft pick. They've got 2 draft picks with the Bears pick in the first round, and I think that and Dallas, that's right. So 3 first-round picks.
3 first-round picks. Probably the second overall pick, and then you're looking at the mid to late 20s. For the Cowboys and Bears.
And don't forget, Carr could still be traded in the offseason for a first-round pick.
He could be.
So this could be a very interesting offseason for the Oakland Raiders. I want to jump to this game only because we have to. Arizona at Atlanta. I said the Falcons would put up, 48? They put up 41.
Something like that. Yep.
So, I mean, this game went exactly the way we all expected. I'm not gonna trash the Cardinals any more than I have already this year. Look, the Falcons are not that much better than the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are just that bad. And I don't know. I heard rumors that the Cardinals are thinking about going with Foles. I think that's stupid. You put this stock here in Rosen. Don't give them a year and say that's it. You got to give these kids 3 full seasons, especially if you're going to fire a coach and go the way of the McVay route, which is bring yourself an offensive-minded coach into the fold to groom the young kid and get him back on track. There's a problem, though, folks. Everyone keeps talking about wanting to repeat the Rams model. The Rams brought in Sullivan and Whitworth on the offensive line, not just McVay. They drafted really well in late rounds and I've said that all along. If you're going to be a championship caliber team, you've got to draft well in the late rounds. The Chargers have done this on the O-line, getting 2 linemen. I'm still pissed about that. The 2 linemen I wanted the Rams to get, and the frickin' Fricks got them both. But the Rams did get Brian Allen from Michigan State, and I like him at center. But you've got to have good picks. You've got to hit in the late rounds. The Rams got Johnny Johnson in the 4th. They got Cooper Kupp in the 2nd or 3rd, whatever it was. Prior to that, LaMarcus Joyner was a late round pick, 3rd round guy. They've been doing well, drafting in that regard, and then they spent some money to bring some guys in. So, the Cardinals don't have a lot of pieces. They have David Johnson, and that's it, because Larry Fitzgerald, I believe, is going to retire at the end of this year. So they have no offensive line to speak of. They have no defensive line to speak of. The Falcons have got to get healthy on defense with their secondary. I would give Quinn one more year just because that secondary was so decimated this year. I think Atlanta's a lot farther along than the Cardinals are, to be sure. And this game kind of showed it.
Yeah, there's rumors that both coordinators in Atlanta could be let go at the end of the season. I've heard as much as Wilks and possibly Keim being let go as well. I haven't heard the full rumor. I don't know why the Cardinals would do that. I mean, yeah, I know he's proven himself. I know he's proven himself a capable backup, but I mean, you have Mike Glennon citing in this recent game, and you know my feelings about Glennon, what I thought was a bad move last year for the Bears, but. Foles would want to go there to be the starter, and I'm sorry, but if you're Arizona, you can't do that.
No. Let's go to Tennessee, New York. I did not expect the Giants to get shut out.
Tennessee, congrats. Tip my hat. I thought you were going to get run all over, but holy cow, Derrick Henry has found something before the game against Jacksonville. He said he was watching video of himself, and he corrected something, and he's gone off like a bandit through the night. I mean, I did not expect back-to-back weeks of Derrick Henry to produce what he's done, and I was actually just left it on. I'm like, wow, you gotta be kidding me.
He has looked like the Henry that ran at Alabama. He has beaten defenses like they stole something personal from him. It's been fun to watch. And I'll tell you, I don't know what it is. I have never liked the Titans, but I'm starting to really like them. You know how you said the Texans are kind of becoming your other team.
Yep.
I've had 3 teams for a long time: Rams, Redskins, Browns, in that order. I like the Bills because of Josh Allen. You guys know how I feel about Josh Allen. I'm hoping he's not a bust. It's looking good so far, but again, you got to wait the 3 years. But this Tennessee team, man, really, them and the Colts, I'm really enjoying watching playing football. It's been really fun to watch. So
yeah, funny how you just mentioned the 2 teams, the 2 shutouts.
I know, and I did not know the Colts were going to pull that off. We'll get to that later, but kudos to Tennessee. It's not just on offense, though. Their defense shut down one of the best, if not, I dare say, the best running back this year in Saquon Barkley. So the Giants just never had a chance. Right out the gate, the Titans just were like, not today. And in New York, in their own park, which is tough to do.
Right. And what I found interesting was the week prior, Odell Beckham Jr. had a calf injury, and he got I think they said he got like a leg whip or something like that, and hit him in the calf, and he was out last week. And then Tuesday comes along, he's like, oh, I'm feeling so much better, and you hear that, and you're like, okay, well, he's going to play Sunday, great, okay. And then you keep getting in on the week, and he doesn't practice, he doesn't do anything, and all of a sudden he's ruled out for Sunday. It's like, well, if he felt so much better, all right, just say you felt the same and it hasn't improved. I don't know. Don't give your offense any hope, and then just not play. I know the Giants have nothing to play for. I get it, and maybe they're holding him out because they want him to be healthy for off season. I don't know. I also read an article about how Eli Manning is playing his way onto the 2019 roster. I'm like, well, not after this past game, he's not.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. The Giants have got to move on. I hate to say it. I think the Chargers this season have got to move on from Phillip Rivers. The Steelers have moved on. I cannot wait to watch Mason Rudolph. I really think when he finally gets a chance, he may be the Aaron Rodgers of this generation. a guy that's got to sit on the bench for a few years, bide his time, a quarterback, and because they don't get along. And this started in the offseason when Roethlisberger basically gave him the cold shoulder and said, you want to learn how to play quarterback, watch some film, and wouldn't help him and wouldn't work with him. I really think Rudolph is going to come out and be like, okay, mofo, you want me to learn on my own? I'm going to go somewhere else, maybe to Brady, maybe to Rodgers, but I'm going to go to somebody else, and I'm going to learn the game. And there's something about backs coming out of Oklahoma State with a chip on their shoulder. You had Thurman Thomas coming out of Oklahoma State. You had Barry Sanders. And now you've got Mason Rudolph. They're all backs. He's a quarterback. They were running backs. But I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see what he does. I know you're a Steeler fan, Eric, and I want you to watch that unfold because I think the Steelers did something smart. And if the Giants and the Chargers don't, and the Patriots, if they don't follow suit here soon, and the Packers for that matter, you're gonna get left behind, and your franchises are going to be mulling around in mediocrity for a long time. It's like these Ram fans that want Goff to leave after this game. It kills me. It's like, really, guys? Do you want a Case Keenum back in the lineup? You gonna hang your hat on Sean Mannion? Do you want another Sam Bradford? Maybe you want. You know what? Maybe I'm being too unfair. Maybe you're longing for the Tony Banks days. Give me a damn break. We've got one. You hold that crap like gold, and you build around it. But we'll see what they do. If the Giants don't find a replacement for Eli this year, I worry about that team for a very long time, and Barkley's going to get wasted, which would be a real shame. Speaking of shocking, not that I said shocking, so that was really a horrible transition. Well, okay, let's go with this. Speaking of wasting, how about the Redskins wasting everyone's time? You got to win. Congratulations. You beat the Eagles. I want to tip my hat to Johnson.
Jaguars.
Huh?
Jaguars.
That's what I said. What'd I say?
You said the Eagles.
Oh, sorry. They play the Eagles week 17. I want to tip my hat to Johnson. I think he played a great game considering what he was dealing with. The Jags are a really good secondary. It was a bloody game. It was tough. It was unexpected, and I'm proud of the kid. 32 years old, gets his first win in his first game as a starter in something like 6 or 7 years, whatever it was. It was crazy. He played well enough for the Redskins to win, and they did win. But they beat a Jacksonville Jaguar team that was pathetic. You're going to Tennessee next week. It's been nice, but you're eliminated. And then you wrap the season up against Philly, who I think is going to beat the pants off you as well. So they're going to end up 7-9, which is par for the course. I'm pretty sure that's been Jay Gruden's overall record. If you take his wins and divide it by his losses, I'm pretty sure it comes out to 7-9 as his average yearly record. So it won't be surprising. Once again, they had this great opportunity this season and they pissed it away. It shouldn't be hail to the Redskins. It should be see you later, Jay Gruden, because it's been a displeasure having you here for the last too many years. But a win is a win is a win. Your take?
My take. I called the final score of 6-3, and it ended up being 16-13.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give Josh Johnson credit. I really don't know what else to say about this game because it was two bad teams, and somebody literally had to win.
Well, they could have tied.
They were both too bad to tie.
Somebody was going to give the game away, right?
Right, and I mean when your starting quarterback is Cody Kessler, you're not really going to win many games.
What are you talking about? That guy's an MVP caliber quarterback, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is. He every time he plays, somebody on the other team's defense is the MVP. All right.
So that's your MVP boy, just like Sam Darnold.
Exactly. Sam Darnold. There we go. Yeah, there's not a lot to say about this game, but there is a lot to say about this one. Dallas. I called it. Did not expect it to be a 23-0 whitewash. And the celebration that the Colts had in the locker room at the end of that game, it was almost as good as the Bears. It really was. With Disco Bet. Disco Bet. That's what the Bears remind me of every time. If you guys watch Walking Dead, you got that reference. If you don't watch Walking Dead, you're like, what's Disco Bet? I don't understand. But watch Walking Dead. Disco Bet. That's what it totally reminds me of. Anyway, Disco Ball not included in the Indy locker room. It was pretty fun to watch that celebration. But man, Indy played. They played the perfect game. All three phases stepped up and played really, really well. Santa Claus kicked a field goal. I'm sorry, Adam Vinatieri kicked a field goal. I love that white beard, by the way. That has got to be the most epic beard in NFL history. I will never remember Vinatieri any other way. But it was. Look, Luck played well. The running game showed up. I told you guys that offensive line is legit. I saw them pull their center, Russ Grimm Jr., okay, who, as I like to dub him. They pulled the center. He came around the end, went upfield, and actually lead blocked on the running play. Lead blocked? He was the lead blocker on the play and absolutely just cleaned house. I don't even remember who the linebacker was. Might have been Van Der Esch. It might have been, I don't think Lee played. Whoever it was, they just got erased and boom, like a rocket through the infield. It was a beautiful thing to watch. The Colts are legit, and I don't know that they're going to lose another game. Indianapolis plays the Giants next week at home. The Giants look pedestrian at best, to take your word from about Drew Brees. That's going to be basically, we get a play-in game. The NFL isn't like baseball where if you have the same record at the end of the year, you play a playoff game. But we get one, week 17. The schedule makers really nailed it because I really believe the Titans and the Colts, it's a play-in game. That's what it is. So we'll see what happens in that game. But I picked Indy to be the 6th seed.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Colts and Titans both lose.
They're not.
In week 16, and then tied week 17. The Browns win their last two games. Browns are in.
Dude, that would be so amazing, but it's not going to happen. Oh, hey, stranger things have happened, but that would be surprising. Look,
the
Dallas.
The Browns would go to the Patriots and beat the Patriots.
Oh, could you imagine? Look, Dallas.
that would be epic.
That would be epic. And then they go into the divisional game, and they beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. You end up playing in the championship game. Oh my gosh! All right, enough with that. That's craziness.
So I do want to add to the Cowboys Colts game. And I want to go back to your first point. You said that their celebration was almost as good as the Bears. Well, almost only counts hand grenades and horseshoes. And what's on the Colts helmet?
A horseshoe.
That's right, baby. That's right.
So
anyways. I want to. We don't talk about this guy, but he is very deserving of defensive rookie player of the year. Darius Leonard, dude was a steal in the second round for Indianapolis, and he not only has 11 or more sacks, but he was in on that blocked field goal and literally almost ran it back too.
Yeah.
But a lot of things changed for the Cowboys on that blocked field goal, just like the week before when Taysom Hill blocked the Buccaneers' punt. I mean, it set one team in motion to come back. It set another team back to where they couldn't get back into scoring range, or when they did, they couldn't convert fourth downs. It was a masterpiece. It was a defensive effort that Dallas had turned on themselves from 2 weeks prior.
Yeah. Look, Dallas has real holes, Eric. They have real holes. Dak Prescott's not the answer in Dallas. This is his third year. I feel like I can say it. I think he's a playoff caliber quarterback. Okay. You know how much I like this guy that I'm about to say, okay? But I think it's a fair criticism at this point. I think Dak Prescott is going to be for Dallas what Andy Dalton has been to Cincinnati.
I thought you were going to say Kirk Cousins.
The difference here is this. Cincinnati went so long without being relevant that just being in the playoffs and being relevant was good for a while. In Dallas, just being relevant is not acceptable. Whether they're too lofty of a goal that they set on themselves, Dallas expects to be competing for championships, much like the Yankees in football, much like the Lakers in basketball, or the Celtics. The Cowboys have that expectation, that label for themselves. And I don't think anything burns more in Dallas's soul than knowing that Pittsburgh and New England have more NFL championships than they do. And I think that bothers them. They have 5. New England is one of several teams with 5. But New England's kind of gotten a lot of their 5 in really the last, well, not really, literally in the last 20 years. In Dallas, they haven't had 1 in 20 years. So there's a sense here of frustration, I think, for the Cowboys. But they've got real holes, and Dak Prescott's one of them. And he'll get you to the playoffs or just get you in the playoffs, but he ain't going to do much once you're there unless you really have a good core around him. And that's what the Cowboys have to decide. Do they want to build that core around him and go, we're going to run with this and give it a shot, or do they cut him loose and try with somebody else? I mean, Nick Foles, that might not be a bad landing spot for Nick Foles.
If Nick Foles decides to leave Philly.
I mean,
knowing that 2 of the last 3 years Carson Wentz has not finished the season, you have a chance to play a lot more.
That's true. We'll see what Dallas does, but it'll be interesting. Boy, Seattle at San Francisco. Did anyone see this coming?
Nope.
You explain this one. I'm shutting up. I'm listening to you.
Listen, you got to cover a tight end every now and then. I mean, if it's not Kittle, it's Garrett Selleck. It's like, what is it? Tight end freaking masterminds over there?
Hey, hold on, Eric. I cover my tight end every day.
Yeah, I bet you do.
Look, I don't know.
Mullins is very up and down. The Seahawks don't have that that great defense anymore, but it still doesn't give me the reason why Kittle's been wide open so much this year for San Francisco, and Selleck was wide open on his touchdown. They had very little running game against Seattle. They were throwing the ball. Mullins had a great game, actually.
He did.
But turn the ball around. What did Seattle do? Seattle ran down the 49ers' throats with Chris Carson. He had just under 120 yards and a touchdown. I mean, they can run the ball. They're the highest percentage run team in the NFL, and that's why I think if they get like that 5th or 6th seed, they're in trouble. Because what does Dallas do? Dude, Dallas stops the run.
Right. That's my point. Like everyone's no one wants to play Seattle.
They stop the run.
Well, they're like, no one wants to play Seattle. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yes, I want to play Seattle.
I'll welcome it.
What?
I'll welcome it.
Yeah. Like, you they play Kansas City next week. If they don't win that game, sorry Chargers, sorry MM forever, you don't win the division. Well, they're going to be a 6 seed.
You'll know beforehand. You'll know beforehand whether or not the Chargers are going to get the division or not. If the Chargers lose, then it doesn't matter what Kansas City does.
They're not losing to Baltimore. They're not losing. That's my lock and loaded pick of the week right there. I'm more
Well,
confident.
Listen, the Chargers play better defense than Kansas City, as we've seen the last few weeks, and against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City don't play defense. Kansas City should have lost to Baltimore.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see what happens. Look, I think Seattle's getting in, okay? But they're one and done. They don't scare me. And I don't understand. I do understand because everyone gets a hard-on for the same 6 teams, and they only want to cover those 6 teams, and it's just lazy reporting. It's like, oh, the Seahawks, they're relevant again, so let's just talk about the Seahawks. The rebuild's going better than expected. No.
Okay, hold on. Who are the 6 teams?
Packers.
Not in the playoffs.
I know, but I'm telling you to go to 6. Patriots, Steelers.
Okay, until Tom Brady retires,
right?
The Patriots are going to be in the playoffs. Doesn't matter if he's 50.
Patriots, Steelers, Broncos, or wherever.
Okay.
Actually, I say Broncos, but really wherever Peyton Manning was playing. Dallas, Green Bay, New Orleans, and Seattle.
It's like 7 or 8 teams, but okay.
Yeah, well, I threw New Orleans in there because that's been the latest flavor of the week, right? But
right.
You take Peyton Manning's teams out of the equation, Denver and Indy, and you've got New England, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Green Bay, New Orleans, Seattle.
The first two of those teams are old. They're getting old. They won't be in those 6 anymore. Green Bay, same thing. Okay? New Orleans. Unless you get the right quarterback, unless Teddy Bridgewater takes off with that team when Drew Brees retires, New Orleans won't be there either.
Stop. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that's the go-to 6. Dallas could be 1-14. They win the final week of the season, and everyone's picking them to win the Super Bowl next year. Oh, they won 2 in a row. They look phenomenal. Right? It doesn't matter if these teams suck. It doesn't matter.
Didn't they go 1-15 and then win the Super Bowl the next year?
What?
I said, didn't they go 1-15 under Jimmy Johnson and then win the Super Bowl the following year?
No, not the following year. It took them 3 years.
Okay.
The Giants and then the Redskins and then them. But that's my point. I remember that's why Dallas annoys the crap out of me. Because they could be 5-8. They're going to get a primetime game and they're going to get coverage like they're 9-1.
And that's fine. They'll get beat down like a redheaded stepchild.
It's just annoying. It's lazy. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, Seattle's one of those teams, right? They don't even realize that this thing is slowly dying. Like, they thought they just dismantled this team and it was dead. But it's like, no, bro. No. They are slowly dying.
It's only one side of the ball that's dying, and that they got to rebuild that defense.
The offense is garbage.
Okay. The offense is okay.
It's garbage. Have you seen their O-line?
Yes, I have, and it's actually played better this year than it has the last 2 years combined.
That is to be true. That is for sure. But they are run blocking specialists. They cannot protect the quarterback, and we see it week in and week out, time and time again. Which is why if they play the Bears...
somebody in their scouting department that needs to get fired. Well,
I'm just telling you what the reality is. The problem is, it's exactly like what Richard Sherman said with the 49ers in the offseason. That Carroll gets old because it's the same crap. He treats everybody like they're college kids. He has all of this enthusiasm. Many of it is ginned up and faked. Look, you're not going to tell me, as a player, okay, don't sit there and have this jacked up, motivated attitude for a 1-9 football team. I know what you're doing. Shut the hell up. I know you're not that excited about this opponent. I'm not that excited about this opponent. But I also know that we're good enough to beat them. Just put us in position to win and shut up once in a while. But every single friggin' week, Pete Carroll is acting like it's Notre Dame, USC, 1-2, winner goes to the BCS championship game. Because that's when he coached in college. And it's just not. And it wears. And trust me, this as a motivational coach, and that's what I was. When I coached, I gave those motivational speeches. And it worked really well my first year at Chandler Prep. Everybody was amped up and ready for it. They needed it. They had never seen anything like it. And they needed to have that belief in themselves that they were good. But I didn't talk up an opponent. If they were garbage, I talked them down and said, you guys are way better, and here's what you're going to do to them. I started doing that again next season, about 3 games in, and I could see in their eyes they weren't listening anymore. They tuned me out. I had to change my messaging system, and I did. And it worked, and we ended up winning 2 of our last 3 games. But not because of me, but I was able to get the best out of them when we needed it. Pete Carroll's just a broken record, and trust me, wears thin. They're going to have to rebuild this thing every 5-6 years because guys are just going to get sick of the message. You can only tell me how big this game is for so long. So I think they're dying a slow death, and the media just doesn't know it. And I'm not saying that because they lost to San Francisco. I'm saying that because I'm seeing cracks in the armor. It isn't just defense. They've got a 97-year-old place kicker that missed an extra point. That's a crack in the armor. They don't have a return game that's going to scare anyone. They don't have a kicking game or a punting game. They don't have a quarterback that I'm sorry, I'm not afraid of Russell Wilson. Because I'm looking out there and I'm like, who are you going to throw to? Who are you going to throw to? Vanette? Yeah, I'm not worried about Vanette. Okay? I'm going to focus on the running backs. And I'm going to put 8 guys in the box and I'm going to shut the running game down. And I'm going to take my chances with Russell Wilson. Is he a good quarterback? Absolutely. And if he had pieces around him, he'd win another Super Bowl because he's that damn good. But right now, he's got nothing. So you don't worry about him. Am I wrong?
See how you feel when they select N'Keal Harry for the first-round pick.
Well, that'll change things. That'll change. They need weapons. That's what I'm getting at. But it's a rebuild. And it's dying slowly because of who their coach is. Last one, New England at Pittsburgh. Because we covered the Ram-Eagle game already. Look, I'm going to say a couple things here. I was wrong on one thing when I told you. It was actually a 21-yard completion, 21 yards in the air. There was no Steeler anywhere in the stadium. I think the closest Steeler was somewhere in Philadelphia. But he certainly wasn't in Heinz Field, and Hogan just basically could have walked into the end zone because there was just 3 guys were covering 1 person. Tell me that wasn't a blown coverage. But after that, that was it. They had a holding penalty at the end of the game.
It was all a part of their plan.
Yeah, right. Tom Brady had to go 25 yards. That's a key number. He was unable to throw the ball downfield. Now, some people are like, well, Anthony, yeah, he couldn't throw. They had all those guys in the area. Okay. Exactly. They finally played it the right way. You're not going to play man coverage in that situation and get beat one-on-one. Okay? They played a shell 2. They had 2 safeties up top. They had their 2 corners playing about 3-4 yards in front of them, and they had their linebackers. They were blitzing. So he could have thrown short, but then 4 guys are going to come up and make a play. So by default, because of the blitz and because of where the corners were positioned, the short game was eliminated because of the time and the location on the field. It was funny to watch because I'm sitting there like, as soon as that holding penalty happened, I'm like, they ain't even going to get a first down. He is incapable of throwing the ball that far downfield. And he looked awful. He horribly missed on one. He had a throw on 3rd down that looked a lot like Jared Goff's last gasp at the end zone to Reynolds. It wasn't very pretty. Look, this is the problem with New England moving forward. And, the Patriots have the Jets and Bills. They'll win both those games because, it's little sisters of the poor. And, Typewriter Institute of the Deaf, Blind, and Dumb that they have to play the next 2 weeks. But once they get to the postseason, The Chargers can go in and kick their teeth in. The Steelers can go in and beat them. I believe that if they end up drawing Pittsburgh, although that would be an act of God. The Colts can go in and beat them with the way they play football. The Titans can certainly beat them. This isn't – at this point, you want New England, not Pittsburgh, in my opinion. But the Patriots look really pedestrian. Again, that's the word of the day today. But they look bad. They look as bad as I thought they were.
Yeah, the Ravens can go in there and beat them too, actually.
Maybe.
I guess you missed the other 20-plus yard completion to Edelman over the middle. It was actually a nice deep throw. 20, 25 yards or so. But I think it was only his second one because he had Josh Gordon for a 19-yard gain. But again, it was just 19. And what Pittsburgh did to Gordon and Gronkowski and holding them to a total of 40 yards on 3 catches, that's a win right there already.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this. I think we're watching the last season of Rob Gronkowski go out. He has got to be more hurt than he is letting on because he looked like not even a shell of his former self. He looked like a ghost of his former self. Last year against Pittsburgh, he put up over 150 yards receiving. Yeah. This year, 21. Mm-hmm. 21. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Patriots can only utilize him so much in the pass game. He's an underrated run blocker, so I know they use him a lot on the outside when Michelle or Burkhead or White are running the ball. But it's a slow dying death in New England right now. And give credit to Pittsburgh. And what I'm about to say, you'll never hear anybody say this out of Pittsburgh or anywhere even in the vicinity of Pittsburgh. But I think with the win, Tomlin saved his job for another season. Because there's no way you can look your other bosses in the eye and say, I can't beat New England. Because the writing's on the wall right there. I showed it to you when we previewed the game. How many times they've lost in a row. And Tomlin, it just seems like he couldn't beat New England. But I'm like, I really think that win saved his job for this season, whether or not they won the Super Bowl or not. Obviously, if they won the Super Bowl, but if they lost the first or second round, then I don't know how they would be able to keep them.
I don't either. I think that's a good point.
But I'll tell you this: in the first half, it was really a tale of two halves. In the first half, Pittsburgh looked great; they were throwing the ball all over the place. Jalen Samuels looked ridiculously good. And in the second half, it's like nobody wanted to score. It's like, come on now. Yeah. And it was like, what's going on? Like these are high 20s, 30s scoring point games. Like, let's go. And then 17-10. It's like interesting. And there weren't that many bad penalties called in the game, but boy, oh boy, what a bad interception by Brady. Is down in the red zone or close to the red zone where Joe Hayden went up and jumped up for that ball. It was like, what are you doing? I mean, we saw Russell Wilson against the Vikings do the same thing. Brady just did it this week, and it's like, what's going on in the quarterback's head that they're just throwing the ball up and I know they're trying to get it out of bounds, but man, you don't just throw it up with no arm strength.
But there's my point about his arm strength.
It's not just Brady, though.
I know, but Brady in particular is who I'm worried about because you talk about 2 years ago, even last year, that ball's 3 feet in the upper deck. Not in the upper deck, in the sidelines. On the in the stands, but he couldn't even get out of bounds. I don't know. There's something going on there, and I've noticed it from week 1. And teams that have utilized that strategy, they beat New England, and they beat them pretty good. So,
well, the one team who really utilized it, and they still need help to make the playoffs, but it was Tennessee.
Yeah.
When they beat them down 34-10.
Absolutely. All right. Well, closing thoughts. I just want to say one thing, guys. Look, I hope you take my criticism of the Ramley a little, not lightly. I want you to understand that. you can call me soft. I think that's a fair statement about me being satisfied with a first-round loss, okay? I stand by that only in the sense that I'm looking long-term, and, there's a lot of things we tried this year, and talent-wise, we're better than that, but division champs, moving forward, we'll get better as we get more picks, and we cut some of this dead weight and bring in some of this younger talent. But talk about blowing it up at 11-3. That really irritates me because you are either way too emotional at the time of, and trust me, guys, I hate losing to the Philadelphia Eagles. I've been doing it my whole life. But being a Ram fan, we just never, the Bears and Eagles are two teams we never seem to be able to get a hold of. But let's be realistic about what we are and where we are. We're slumping. I seem to remember a Cardinal team in baseball quite a few years ago that limped into the postseason and then owned it and won the World Series.
Yes, Anthony, we know. They were 83 and 79. Shut your mouth.
You know what I mean? So, limp it in. It's what you do when you get in there. And what I'm liking, without sounding like a homer, is the things that we need to fix, it's emotional. And that switch gets flipped when you're in the postseason. I like what Marcus Peters said. I agree with what Marcus Peters said. But they've got to do more than one formation, 12 plays. That's not going to cut it in the postseason. McVay, open it up. There's a lot more out there to do. So, but don't blow this thing up at 11-3, and don't talk about that. That just makes you sound like an uneducated fan. You're too upset about one game or two, to be fair. Yeah.
Listen, 11-3, if you even think or even talk about blowing it up, get your head examined because you're 11-3. You know how many teams would kill to be 11-3?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you blow it up, you might as well just hand the keys over to the Chargers and just call your new stadium Charger Stadium.
Well,
because that's what it would be.
You keep saying that, but dude, they can't sell out a 20,000 seat stadium and they're 11-3. Like, I'm sorry.
AFC Conference Championship game could be played in StubHub Center. I'm just saying, 27,000 people.
Do you think the NFL would be pissed about that?
Oh, just a little bit. I honestly think they'd move into Pasadena. I really do.
That'd be interesting, actually. That would be interesting. All right. Well, I think you're right, actually, to boot. But anyway, that's my parting thought. Been here, guys. I'm 37. I'm 39 years old. I've watched a lot of Ram football games over the years. I've followed this team for a long time. I've coached for a long time. You just can't get too high on the highs, and you can't get too low on the lows. And right now, it's stormy weather. We'll figure this out. It will be what it will be. But enjoy the ride as we go through, because this is a very good team, and we have a quarterback. And I'm saying it now, and I said it before, and I'm saying it even though he struggled the last two games. We have a franchise quarterback, and that's something that this franchise has not had in some time. He was an MVP caliber quarterback for most of this season. Guys, the last time we had a quarterback in the conversation for NFL MVP as the Los Angeles Rams was Roman Gabriel. So, and other than that, it was Kurt Warner. So we got two guys we've been around since 1937. We'll be fine. Let's see how this season pans out. Closing thoughts.
It just makes you a passionate fan to, be on the highs and be on the lows with your team. Trust me, I've been there. I've seen it, especially the last 3 years with John Fox. Now, the Bears have been highly compared to the Rams. That the Bears are 1 year behind the Rams. I would love for the Bears to be 11-3 next year at this time. Would love it. It just goes to show that, again, there's changing of the guards around the divisions in the NFL. And, if the Bears can can add on to what they're doing this year and upgrade next year, we'll love it. I mean, the Bears and Rams are already playing next year in LA, so that's when the next time the Bears will be there. I'm just saying. But
Hey,
I
Eric,
mean,
let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but how cool would it be if me and you went to LA, met up with LT and forgive me, I'm forgetting the other guy's name that does the other Ram show, and we did a show out there in LA, the four of us together.
Oh, that'd be great.
I think that'd be fun, right?
That'd be great. I've already looked at the Bears' schedule or the Bears' opponents. I'm like, damn, I wish it was one more year that we'd be out in LA, and we could still obviously be out in LA, but that'd be cool to go and go see the new stadium. But heck, I'd go to the Coliseum. A lot of history in the Coliseum, whether it's college or pro.
I want to do one more game in the Coliseum before they move. That might be the one I go.
Yeah, and I'm already considering coming out there for that. So, I mean, yeah, like it just makes you a passionate fan. Just know your limits as far as like, you know, where your feelings go, because yeah, after the Bears lost to the Dolphins, I mean, it was one of those, oh geez, throw the season out the window. Or when the Bears lost a 20-0 lead against Green Bay week 1, you know, everybody's like, oh, same old Bears again. And you know, look what happened. It took one game for them to realize, hey, this is not who we are, and we're gonna have a good season. And that's what they ended up doing. And Nagy's been a blessing in disguise, just like last year. Sean McVay has been a blessing in disguise for the Rams. Yep. And they know what they're doing. You just gotta let it play out. That's all.
Trust the process, man. LT, we're planning it now. We'll start talking. I'll hit you up on a text message. Maybe even give you a phone call. Eric, me and you got to work out the deal with that. I've got to make sure I get my credit card paid down low enough, because we're going to Carlsbad next year in June. So I got to make sure that that's paid off before that trip. Then I can afford.
And I'm coming out in March.
I know, but if that credit card's paid off, then I'm able to do 2 trips in 1 year if that happens. So I'm going to be working hard on doing that. And then if we do get down there, we'll get down there a day or 2 early so we can hook up with LT and the other gentleman. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name. It's horrible on my part. I'll get better at it. But anyway, appreciate it, guys. Keep subscribing. Smash that like button. Get these videos out there. I want more views. I want more people to see it, because people need to know that there's real, comprehensive NFL coverage, and they don't have to rely on Good Morning Football with all of their stupid shenanigans and lack of professionalism that they display on a day-to-day basis. I don't get amused. I'm not watching football. I'm not watching you. I'm watching your show to get real analysis about real football games. And I'm just not getting it when I watch these buffoons on TV. So, and our predictions, by the way, Eric, we've been blowing them out of the water. I've had 3 losing weeks total this year. I have been killing it this year in the prediction category. And we'll continue to get better as we do this, I'm sure. But guys, keep smashing the like button. Subscribe. We love you. Hopefully you didn't get too mad at me today. But I think sometimes, you know, Uncle Anthony needs to smack you guys around a little bit and go, wake up. You're being silly. Anything, E, before I leave?
Man, coming down to the nitty-gritty the last couple of weeks, so, you know, the wild cards are going to be interesting to see who gets in and who blows it. And I know you don't think the Ravens are going to get in. I think they're going to be a tough out, you know, their next 2 games. Whether they win or lose, we're not picking that yet. So, and there's no Thursday night game as well this week either. So, we don't have to worry about previewing a game. But there are a couple of games Saturday, I think, and we'll get to those.
Yeah.
Later on in the week.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Go Rams.
Go Bears.
Horns up.
Bear down.
That's it. Bye.